So we've got debris from the missing F-35, and it was spotted in South Carolina. Ironically, this is the same state that the Chinese spy balloon was finally shot down by an F-22. Curious coincidences. Hmm. Yeah, so I guess they have found debris of the missing F-35. I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was, in Cuba on some sort of Chinese military base. That's where my bets were at. I was like, "Okay, it's going over to Cuba, Chinese military base, our military, is compromised." That's where my head was going, but I guess they have found debris. We're gonna get into that story here in just a little bit. The US government was asking the public for some help in locating this $80 million F-35 jet, and it went missing after a so-called mishap. We don't know really anything about it. It's important that we talk about why the hell an $80 million F-35 jet didn't have some sort of tracking device or something. So we're gonna get to that, but also the Me Too Mafia. You need to know this. Russell Brand is under attack from the Me Too Mafia. Is he a rapist or is he a target of the Me Too Mafia? We're going to find out here coming up in just a bit. McDonald's slammed for their new draconian California fast food laws. Wow. This is a devastating financial blow to McDonald's. It's going to impact the economy a lot there and possibly impact the nation and how McDonald's actually does business. So, we're going to be chatting about that. You guys can see me live in studio always, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Be sure to smash that like button and share this video out with your normie friends. Subscribe to the channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. You just type that in the YouTube search bar. It's real easy. You can find all of my videos at cities929.com. Just go to shows, click on the morning buzz, and you'll see me. All right, so let's get into it. The Me Too Mafia. So on Saturday, I guess several UK media outlets accused Russell Brand of sexually assaulting four different women. Now, Russell Brand is a bit of a firebrand in that he is a conservative. He's been very outspoken about the vaccines. That is what he's kind of known for now. And he was I like Russell Brand a lot. I listen to him on Rumble. Um, Now these women are unnamed, so he has no idea who's really accusing him. There's four unnamed women sprinkled throughout these media outlets in the UK, and they've accused Russell Brand now of sexual misconduct from 2006 to 2013. One woman claims that Brand raped her, while another victim says that Brand sexually assaulted her when she was 16 years old, which is the age of consent in the UK, actually. Uh, Another woman claims that Brand sexually assaulted her and threatened her with legal action if she were to talk about the allegation. Then a fourth woman says Brand sexually assaulted her and physically and emotionally abused her. When you read these articles, they're mostly about what they claim is controlling and bullying behavior when you read these articles from these UK media outlets, okay? And then they also talk about the negative sexual experiences. That's very different from rape, okay? Controlling, bullying, behavior, negative sexual experiences, that's all very different from rape. That doesn't mean that it never happened. I'm not saying that. But right away, when I read an article and they accuse somebody of rape, and then they add, all of this extra stuff about how he was mentally abusive or bullying these women, I go, whoa, 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 hold on a second. You already said rape. You already hit the punchline. Why would you add something that dilutes from that accusation? It's because it's not justified. Okay, that's why these news articles, these media outlets, these hacks who write these, it's not justified. So then they go in and then they try to add more things in order to justify the claim of rape. Rape doesn't need to be justified. It's a claim, and you've already hit that punchline, okay? So the moment when I start reading these articles, I can almost tell when it's fake or when it's fabricated, and I'm not saying that it is. I just notice 9 times out of 10 when these news articles start saying, "Oh, well, he was also bullying her," and things like that. In the case of Johnny Depp, we saw this. He was being mean to her. Wait a second, why are you adding that? Because what that does, it dilutes, for me anyway, the accusation of rape. You're taking away from the rape that happened. Let's talk about the rape that happened that you are accusing Russell Brand of. But they don't have anything. That's the thing. So, Brand on Saturday, he posted a video denying all of the allegations of sexual assault, and they were later reported, the denials by the Sunday Times. This is an outlet accusing the outlet of engaging a coordinated attack. So there was the Sunday Times, I guess, and they were trying to defame him, and that's what Russell Brand talks about in this video on Rumble. You guys can see it if you're watching me live. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received 2 extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies. And as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play?
There you have it. So they've done this to Donald Trump before. We've seen that play itself out. These allegations pertain to a time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all of the time, when I was in movies. This is what he said. And I've written about that. I've written about my promiscuous lifestyle. And he's been honest about that. And he said, but they were always consensual. And Brand said that he believes that because he is competing with the mainstream media ideas, that this is a campaign and an agenda to defame him. All the accusers are anonymous, by the way. There have been no criminal charges, and there have been no investigations thus far. Just coordinated articles that have been coming out one after the other accusing him of some sort of sexual assault. Nothing has been substantiated at all. The public has not been provided with anything that would show that this is actually real. We currently live in a culture where there's no accountability, and anonymous people can say whatever they want to the media, and the media will run with it if it attacks someone that they don't like. Okay, so Russell Brand, they don't like because Russell Brand has a fairly large Rumble channel, and he attacks the mainstream media quite a bit. There's a cabal of journalists who have decided that certain people don't have the right to a point of view, and they have to be eliminated. Brand has been very open about being promiscuous in the past, and now he advocates for people to learn from his mistakes, and has repeatedly said that that was really bad to go and sleep around with all these actresses and things like that. If Brand was still promiscuous today and an outspoken liberal, do you think that these attacks would have still happened? I don't think so. I think it's because he's a conservative or errs on the side of conservative thought. Really, he just is anti-mainstream because he comes from that world. Okay, so he's seen it and he is critical of it, and they don't like that he's critical of the mainstream. So I don't think that this would be happening if he were an outspoken liberal, or if he were to continue to be an outspoken liberal. Okay, do want to shift gears. Let's talk about the National Owners Association. This is an independent advocacy group of more than 1,000 McDonald's owners. They called the California's recently passed AB 1228. This is a bill. It was passed. The bill's passed. It's awaiting signature on Governor Gavin Newsom's desk. It was passed in the state Senate late on Thursday. And you guys need to know this because it's going to have a devastating financial blow. And that's not me saying it. That's a bunch of McDonald's owners, people who own franchises, people who own these storefronts. They're saying that this is going to have a devastating blow, this bill. So, this bill includes a wage floor of $20 an hour. So, you have to pay California fast food chains, their employees, a minimum of $20 an hour. Okay, with at least 60 locations nationwide. Um, so starting April 1st. So that's what California is doing. They've got a wage floor of $20 for California workers at fast food chains with at least 60 locations, starting April 1st. Now, I am sure fast food workers have nothing to worry about. Of course, they have nothing to worry about. It's not like all the cashiers will be replaced with iPads or something like that. No, that's exactly what's going to happen. Okay. The National Owners Association projects that the bill will cost the restaurant, or well, each restaurant, not the McDonald's itself, but each restaurant that is in California, uh, $250,000 annually. This new bill would cost them $250,000 annually. The group said the costs simply cannot be absorbed by the business model. So, what does that mean? They have to change up their business model. That means cashiers are going to be losing their jobs, and you will be replaced by an iPad in the state of California. The bill would also create a 10-person council to govern fast food and to set guidelines for working conditions and wages, which definitely sounds like socialism and more government takeover of private enterprise, but whatever, I guess. Yes, we're going to create a 10-person council, and this 10-person council of government people, they're going to decide how you run your business. This is straight up socialism. When signing the original version of the legislation, California Governor Gavin Newsom, uh, he says this: California is committed to ensuring that men and women who have helped build our world class economy are able to share in the state's prosperity. Today's action gives hard working fast food workers a stronger voice and a seat at the table to set fair wages and critical health and safety standards across the industry. One reason why this guy's quote here is so dumb is that it implies that food workers have contributed to the economy rather than the business the fast food workers have contributed to the economy more than the business founders or the owners, even though it takes absolutely no risk to become a cashier at McDonald's. He's implying here that the fast food worker contributes to the economy as much, if not more, than those at the top, the business founders. That's not true because there is no risk at becoming a cashier at McDonald's. Minimum wage hikes cause many bad outcomes for employees that they claim they're helping. Okay, this minimum wage hike is going to screw over a lot of employees. While some employees would obviously make more money, it would do so at the cost of their colleagues. It would pay for who would pay for it in their hours being cut or losing their jobs just entirely. Okay, so at the end of the day, they're not going to eat that $250,000 annually per store in the state of California. They're not gonna eat that. They're going to figure out a way to not eat that cost because it's a business. They make money. Okay, so they're going to either cut, uh, hours, or they're going to lay off people or fire people, or they're going to replace cashiers with an iPad. Um, so the majority of 3 decades of minimum wage research finds that hikes cause significant job loss and disproportionately affecting the entry level or lower skilled employees. Okay, so this means that you probably won't get to have a lower level, an entry level or a lower skilled job in the state of California. You won't be able to have one of those. So you're going to have to move if that was your plan. um, yeah, likely there won't be enough jobs. Researchers also found that wage hikes contribute to inflation, causing food price increases. Yeah, so a McDonald's hamburger in California is probably going to run you, oh, I don't know, $50 like by 2025. When businesses have to pay their employees more with no corresponding increase in revenue, they're forced to lay off workers, either replacing them with automation or passing the cost on to the customers. So we're going to all get screwed if this were to happen at a like a national level. It's in California right now, but it will affect you because McDonald's as a company will start to reevaluate its business model to accommodate to California's new law here. So, and a lot of the time, the cost of of a higher wage can't be entirely passed on its consumers, as m- many can't afford to pay, and they end up buying less. So, if the McDonald's hamburger reaches to, oh, I don't know, let's say $10, okay, they raise the prices. I don't know how much McDonald's is. I don't go, but say they raise the prices, you're not going to go if they raise the prices too much. Okay, so there's only so much they can pass on to the consumer. So now they're going to lay people off, and it's this endless cycle. Um, the law may only affect franchises with at least 60 locations in the state, but that's just the start. California will probably expand it until it reaches a minimum wage of $20 statewide. So it's a wage floor. So I don't know. And it's only for like 60 locations in the state of California. I haven't read through the bill entirely, but from what I understand, this is gonna really screw over the McDonald's, business model, and they're gonna have to shift it up a bit. Um, I've gotta take a quick break, but we're going to come back. I'm sorry. I wouldn't be surprised if if the first ever employee-free McDonald's will be in operation within the next 5 years. That's my point with this is I think that we're getting close to employee-free McDonald's every single day, and that's gonna be I mean, you see it. There's no cashiers, uh, because we're all forcing these companies to pay this minimum wage of, like, $20 an hour and $15 an hour, and that's why you don't see cashiers in Walmart for veterans here. I'm in Walmart, there's no cashiers. It's all self-checkout. So your job is going to be gone, McDonald's employee, here pretty soon, probably within the next 5 years, if I had to guess. I'm gonna be back on the other side. This is The Morning Buzz. Good morning, folks. Hey, if you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. We're gonna be talking a little bit about Russell Brand. I don't think that he did it. I think that the Me Too Mafia is going after Russell Brand. I don't think that he's a rapist, and I'm just gonna tell you the reason why I think that is because when I read through these articles, they make that accusation of rape. This is a big accusation, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen when they add all of these other things to it, but why would you hit the punchline, "Hey, this guy raped somebody," and then try to almost justify the rape or try to tack on more stuff with the rape? I think it dilutes it, and I think that it takes away from the actual story. They talk about this mental abuse, the bullying, um, later in the story, they say, she's accusing him of rape, but then they add all of this other stuff. And I go, hold on a second. You already said rape. You already hit the punchline. Why would you add something that deliberately dilutes it? Also, a little bit later, we're going to be talking about that F-35. It was spotted in South Carolina. Ironically, that's the same state that the Chinese spy balloon was finally shot down by an F-22. If you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. Yeah, I don't know. Rising the minimum wage is probably the worst thing to do if you want to lift people out of poverty. Um, the aftermath of raising the minimum wage is so bad that I would not be surprised if California lawmakers actually wind up introducing a bill that would somehow prevent replacing workers with automation. Because that's what their next move is here. McDonald's is just going to replace these cashiers with automation. Economists have also found wage hikes may cause loss of either employment benefits such as healthcare coverage. Another study found that minimum wage hikes push rental costs higher. Um, and what about the businesses? The business closes down a certain location because they can't afford to pay the employees. The minimum wage law essentially would give them $0 an hour. Okay. Um, so this law that California's got, I have to look at the difference between a wage floor and minimum wage. I don't understand the difference there. I think it's the same. Yeah, so wage floor is the floor below which wages are not allowed to fall. So it can't be any lower than that $20 an hour, which is completely absurd to me. Imagine being a McDonald's cashier and getting paid $20 an hour. That's wild. And I don't see and these owners out of McDonald's, I mean, this is a national owners association and it's made up of about 1,000 or so owners of McDonald's. And they've said that they simply cannot absorb this cost um, by the business. It can't be absorbed by the business model they currently have. So 100%, they are going to probably switch to automation of some kind or lay off certain employees or cut hours of certain employees and then work other employees more. It just kind of depends. So I think that everybody truly gets screwed in this. Plus, part of the bill, which I think is even more concerning, is that there's this 10-person council to govern fast food chains and set guidelines for working conditions and wages, which is bizarre. I would imagine that there is some sort of union if they wanted to unionize. I don't know if McDonald's is currently unionized or what, but private unions, right? I'm all for that. This is like going to a whole different extreme where we are having the government create a council that dictates what you're supposed to be doing. This sounds like socialism and more government takeover of private enterprise. But whatever, I don't understand why this bill is a thing. And Governor Gavin Newsom is just going to sign it, which this is draconian. It's going to be a devastating financial blow. If you're watching, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your normie friends. We're going to be back in just about 30 seconds talking about well, one of these things I wanna get to is this F-35 plane. Um, Now I guess it's been found in South Carolina, but the pilot ejected from this F-35 on Sunday afternoon, and the US military was still looking for it all day yesterday, and since Sunday afternoon. It was an $80 million F-35 plane. The pilot safely ejected, then was transferred to a local medical center in stable condition. Emergency response teams they were trying to locate the F-35. Wowza. We've got a bunch of debris everywhere. I guess they found the missing F-35. At least they found the debris of the F-35 spotted in South Carolina. Ironically, this is the same state the Chinese spy balloon was finally shot down by an F-22. Curious coincidence. Yes. So, how the hell do you lose an $80 million jet? Okay. Uh, we're gonna chat a little bit about it. This $80 million jet, this pilot ejected after I guess there was a mishap on Sunday afternoon, and since then the U.S. military was looking for this $80 million F-35. Now the pilot, he was located to a medical center. He was in stable condition. Then the emergency response teams were told, "Hey, go find the F-35." I would imagine that all of these military personnel people were wandering around like forests and they were pressing the key fob like you do when you're at the grocery store. Me, whenever I get out of Walmart, I don't know where I parked the truck. I'm like, ah, man, I forgot where I parked the truck. And I'm running around the parking lot with my key fob hitting the button. This is probably the military personnel wandering around in the forest. They've got the key fob, the F-35 key fob that they're trying to press, but it wasn't working because they eventually had to ask the public to cooperate with the military and civilian authorities and help in finding the whereabouts of this plane, of this jet. So, according to a statement based on the jet's last known position and coordinates, with the FFA or with the FAA, we're focusing our attention on JB Charleston and a couple of lakes there, Moultrie and Lake Marion, in South Carolina. The base asked the public to cooperate with the military and civilian authorities as the effort continues, and they urged people to contact this military defense operations center in Charleston, and they were like, "Yeah, just call this line if you find this jet." What? So US officials, they actually ordered yesterday a 2-day stay down or stand down for all military aviation. So something is definitely going on. The story gets bizarre after the F-35 jet goes missing in South Carolina. We've got the US officials saying stand down to all the military aviation. According to ABC News, no units were allowed to fly unless there was uh, a discussion for 2 days about safety measures and procedures. That's bizarre. So there has to be a discussion for 2 days on safety measures and procedures. Quote, no units were allowed to fly until they had a 2-day discussion about safety measures and procedures. And wow, this was sent out in an email to military personnel, and they ordered a 2-day stand down for all military aviation. Uh, Wowza! So one thing that I found this morning, and this is just in, Hunter Biden, he actually sold the jet for crack. No, I'm just kidding. It's not lost. He sold it for crack. Hunter Biden was seen in the F-35 jet and he was flying it over to the Chinese and he was selling it for crack. No, he wasn't, but it has been found. Hunter Biden's kid did not, or Joe Biden's kid did not sell it for crack. It was found in Williamsburg County, South Carolina. Well, the debris was found there. Now, I was thinking that it was going to be off some some Chinese military base in Cuba. There was some words or some speculation that it went over there. Now, the news was reported by a local news station, NBC2, who says officials from the joint base Charleston, so the joint base there in Charleston, confirmed that news, that they found the F-35 debris. So I don't know. How is there not a tracking device on this thing? Why were we asking the public to help find it? To find a jet and turn it in? That's what you wanted me, a civilian, to do? What was I to do when I find this F-35 jet? You want our help looking for the F-35 jet? I don't know. It was bizarro. Coming up in just a little bit, Big Pharma puts the Mexican cartels to shame. Okay, the FDA is part of the biggest drug cartel in the world. Big Pharma is the biggest drug cartel in the world. It's putting the Mexicans to shame. They're actually going after your supplements. They want to take out their competitor, that's the supplement industry, and they want the FDA to start regulating supplements. And guess who's behind that? Our very own senator here, Dick Durbin. I've got more for you. Also, Illinois becoming the first state to abolish cash bail completely. What does that mean for you? Nothing good, I'll tell you that much. On the other side, this is the Morning Buzz. You can see me live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. I'll be there. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Smash that like button. Yes, the F-35 jet was spotted. It was actually hiding behind a tree. Thank God the military personnel, they were out there with their key fob for their F-35 jet, and they were hitting the button to try to find it like you do in the parking lot there with your car. No, so the F-35 jet was spotted. I guess there was some debris in South Carolina. I think it's ironic that this is the same state that the Chinese spy balloon was finally shot down by an F-22. So the Chinese spy balloon was shot down here um, in South Carolina. So I don't think that that's a coincidence, but we'll have to see. I've also been talking a little bit about Russell Brand, rapist, or is he the latest target of the Me Too mafia? We'll talk about that. Plus, this is really concerning me today because I do supplement quite a bit. Let me know in the comments section what your supplement of choice is, whether that be magnesium, collagen, uh, vitamin D, zinc. Maybe you take all of them, right? So, this just in, we've got this Scientific American article. It's a new article out there, and they're trying to say that the supplement industry is a big no-no, and they call them nutraceuticals, okay? And they say that this is a class of products such as pills, powders, bars, and all of these things have ingredients derived from animal food or from plants and animals, okay? Products, food products. A lot of these supplements, okay? So, manufacturers claim that a lot of these things can help fight cancers, heart disease, boost gut health, and improve general wellness. So, full disclosure, I take magnesium a lot. I take maybe some collagen. I take vitamin D. I do supplement. I do take some vitamin C. Um, I don't take zinc. Zinc is a little tough on me. It makes my stomach a little queasy, so I don't really take a whole lot of zinc. But zinc is good for you. And these supplements have been proven. I mean, they're using ingredients and plant and animal food products that have been around for thousands of years. Okay, that's what these supplement companies do. Now, the FDA does not regulate these vitamins or minerals supplements. Okay, they don't regulate things like that. Um, this is the article here, Scientific American. They say, but some items in this market could pose a threat to human health and safety, and Congress should empower the FDA to start treating these products, as well as vitamins and mineral supplements, more like drugs. So they want to treat supplements like drugs. So you can't just get them over the counter. Right now, no federal agency fully oversees the clinical testing and chemical verification of the nutraceuticals in the United States, and these products are often plagued with quality and safety problems. Um, Nutraceutical makers can perform their own testing for safety and purity, but those tests, as well as the any suspected health benefits, are not required to be independently verified or submitted to the FDA. So what Democrats want to do is they want to get the FDA to do a stamp or a seal of approval of these different supplements, and they want the FDA to approve all of this stuff. Really, what's going on here? Big Pharma, they put the Mexican drug cartels to shame. They are the biggest drug cartel in the world, and the FDA is part of that. And what they're trying to do here is they're trying to take out their competitor, and that is the supplement industry. So the article goes on. It says studies have found that active compounds in these products can be different chemical forms or have different quantities than what is stated on the label. So dosing can be inconsistent. No, 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 no. So a lot of times people are going to say, oh, the doses are actually higher than what they actually read on the label, and you could overdose. You are not going to overdose on vitamin C if you take one extra pill or if you take a couple extra pills. Okay. You're not going to overdose on vitamin C. You're not going to overdose on creatine. You're not going to overdose on magnesium, okay, unless you are actively swallowing 2 bottles of magnesium pills, and at that rate, you could say that about, pain relievers or anything, right? Everything has to be taken in moderation, and they're trying to say that if you take a few extra pills that you're gonna die or that, the numbers aren't exactly correct on the label. Now, I'm sure there is a very small, small, small margin of error here or small, small margin in which they you know, there's more in the actual pill itself. So say you take a pill of vitamin C, there's more in that than what the label reads. I'm sure it's a very small amount. Um, but the point is here, they are trying to regulate um, supplements because all they've got control over right now are over the counter drugs in the US market. And the FDA approval is typically a years long process that involves many phases of research and testing. Um, so they want to tie up the supplement industry because they're not making money off of it. And supplements are needed because of our lack of macronutrients and micronutrients in food. Um, so we're going to be talking about that a little bit. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. Ryan McKenzie, he's on the YouTube channel commenting. You guys can see me live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Be sure to smash the like button if you watch me on social media and share this out with your normie friends. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share. That's Cat Peterson 929 on YouTube. You can also text me at 309-451-9299. I like what Ryan says here. Ryan, I'm sure you're like me and you wake up in the morning, your head pops off the pillow and you read JB tweets because you're a masochist like me. I love reading JB tweets. I'm all about the JB tweeting. So the Safety Act would save lives from violent criminals. That's what JB tweeted. Hilarious. That's so funny. We are going to be getting into that a little bit here on the buzz. Illinois became the first state in the United States to abolish cash bail completely. Completely. We're going to talk about how bad that is and what that means for you as a law-abiding citizen and what it means for the black population because the black population might decrease in the jails. But the morgue population is going to increase. So if they really cared about black lives, they wouldn't have passed this Safety Act, and the Illinois Supreme Court would not have upheld this unconstitutional law. Okay, we're going to get into all of that, but first, I did want to chat about the FDA. This is a big, big story. Okay. And Dick Durbin is behind this, our senator. So call him up today and fight him and say, look, hey, Dick, do not go after nutraceuticals. Stop forcing them to have the stamp of approval from the FDA because that's what they're fighting for. The FDA, they are part of the biggest drug cartel in the world. Big Pharma puts the Mexican drug cartels to shame. Okay, they deal more drugs than anybody. They're going after supplements now because they want to take out a competitor. So, this story out of the Scientific American, I found this, and they're already pushing it. Okay, they're going to start trying to manipulate you into thinking that nutraceuticals are bad, supplements are bad. So here's from the Scientific American this morning. Nutraceuticals are a class of products such as pills, powders, and bars with ingredients derived from animal and plant food products. Their manufacturers claim that, among other things, these supplements can fight cancer or heart disease or boost gut health or improve general wellness. Full disclosure, I'm not a doctor, okay? I just have noticed that once I started supplementing with protein powders, I do protein bars, I try to get more protein into my diet by doing like little protein snacks. I also supplement with magnesium, collagen, vitamin D, zinc, things like that. I've noticed an improvement in my overall health. Okay. They go on in this article, and this is where they try to manipulate you. Okay. But some items in this market could pose a threat to human health and safety. How long has vitamin C been around? How long has vitamin D been around? Now, all of a sudden, they're posing a threat to human health and safety. Okay. And Congress should empower the FDA to start treating these products, as well as vitamins and mineral supplements, more like drugs. Right now, no federal agency fully oversees the clinical testing and chemical verification of nutraceuticals in the United States, and these products are often plagued by quality and safety problems. Nutraceutical makers, they can perform their own testing for safety and purity, but those tests, as well as the claimed health benefits, are not required to be independently verified or submitted to the FDA. So they have a big problem that no federal agency, these bureaucrats who we know are garbage, uh, are not stamping these supplements with the expert seal of approval. Okay. Studies have found, the article goes on, that these active compounds in the products can be difficult or can be different chemical forms or different quantities than what is stated on the label. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't study food sciences, supplements. I don't do that. But I'm telling you right now, this has been going on for years and years and years. Vitamin C, vitamin D, people taking that as a supplement. And the reason why we do that is because our food is crap and we don't get it from our food. So somebody told me a while ago the reason why you supplement with magnesium is because back in the olden days, right before we modernized our food in our food, what we used to do is eat with our hands, and our hands would be dirty, and we would get the minerals that way. We would be literally eating dirt, which has minerals in it. But now that we don't do that and we wash our hands and we've modernized society, which is great. I'm not saying that we should go back to eating with dirty hands. I don't want to do that. However, we have to adapt, and humans have adapted, and we've created supplements because we need those minerals, things like salt, sodium, and there has been a lot of crappy 90s health stuff that they tried to shove down your throat that, real butter is bad for you. They tried to push that. They tried to push that salt is bad for you. These are minerals that your body needs. Healthy fats are good for you, right? And this is just science. Okay. This is just real science. And dietary supplements have been around for decades, for decades. I don't know for how long, but they've been around forever. Okay. Um, and now what people like Senator Dick Durbin want to do, they want the FDA to regulate supplements along with all of their prescription and over the counter drugs because they regulate all of that stuff currently in the United States. Typically, the FDA approval takes it's a it's years long process to go through all these different researching and testing and things like that, and it's red tape. So they're going to try to tie up these supplement companies. We need supplements because the processed foods that we eat lack macronutrients, micronutrients found in raw food. Okay, so they want you sick and unhappy because they want to turn you into lifelong customers. Big Pharma wants to turn you into a lifelong customer, and they can't do that as easy if you are taking your own body and your own health decisions into your own hands, and you're not listening to mainstream protocols because they might not be the best solution for you. You go the cheaper option and you go outside, you eat healthy, and you supplement with vitamin C and D. We supplement with vitamin D because now we all have cushy office jobs and we don't get outside for 8 hours a day. So we need to supplement with vitamin D. These are basic health practices that have worked and have worked, and virtually no doctors during the height of the pandemic were talking about the importance of supplementing with vitamin D. Um, if you want to take magnesium, vitamin D, collagen, so what? I don't think that the FDA should be concerning themselves with bodybuilders who take a little bit too much magnesium. I feel like this should be a lower priority for the FDA as opposed to, oh, I don't know, the vaccines that they're pumping people full of that are causing adverse effects like autoimmune disorders, myocarditis in men. I feel like they should be concerned about that. FDA, why don't we focus on your own products and stop coming after the supplement industry? But a bill called the Dietary Supplement Listing Act is an assault on your body autonomy, and it's essentially a mandate. And it shouldn't surprise you that Dick Durbin is backing that bill because he was also behind the COVID lockdowns, the mandates, the vaccine mandates. And it's clear that he is working for the biggest cartel in the world, and that is Big Pharma. All right, got to take a quick break. But when we come back, let's talk about the Safety Act. So Illinois can no longer order people to be put away or put money up to get out of jail while awaiting trial. Illinois is going to be the first state to ban it completely, cash bail, although other states have eased regulations. So we've got to talk about the Safety Act and how it eliminates cash bail here in the state of Illinois and what it means for you on the other side. This is Kat Peterson on the Morning Buzz. We go to our very busy text line. That's 309-451-9299. Dickie, he's clearly being paid off by the pharmaceutical industry. He's never going to retire. He's hooked on the corruption. Yes. In a way, this whole attack on nutraceuticals, supplements, minerals, things like that, this attack, this really assault on them with this 2022 bill, like I said, it was brought forward by Dick Durbin and a couple of other senators. Dick Durbin, he's got this bill out there. It's called the Dietary Supplement Listing Act. Okay. And this essentially is a mandate because they're mandating that the government, FDA, these government agencies have the overall say in what you can put into your mouth. If you want uh, vitamin D, if you want zinc, too bad. The FDA has to be the end all be all when it comes to approving that kind of thing. So they are in charge of it. And like I said, Big Pharma is the biggest drug cartel in the world, and the FDA is part of that. And they don't like competition. The FDA is trying to get rid of the competition. Supplements are needed, and they want to make you a customer for life. Okay, they want to make you unhappy and sick, so that way you have to go to Big Pharma and you have to become a lifelong customer. Even though there are plenty of easy natural fixes. Like I said, I am not a doctor. Okay, I'm not going to pretend like I am a doctor. However, I don't like this whole weaponizing the FDA against something that's been around for decades and has proven to be. I mean, I've never heard of anybody overdosing on vitamin D or vitamin C. Okay, have you heard of somebody overdosing on magnesium or creatine? Come on. I feel like this has been around for decades, and all of a sudden we're worried about the supplement. It's because people are beginning to have a distrust in Big Pharma, especially after COVID-19. And we're beginning to see that, hey, if I supplement with vitamin D and zinc, I don't get COVID. Huh. And I think it's very odd that we had virtually no doctors during the height of the pandemic talking about how vitamin D prevented COVID-19 from you getting COVID-19. All right. Starting yesterday, judges in Illinois can no longer order people to put up money to get out of jail while awaiting trial. Illinois is the first state to ban cash bail completely. But don't worry, I'm sure that won't increase crime at all. And it'll fix racism for good. Okay, there is going to be no racism here in the state of Illinois because we now have something like the Safety Act. This new law, it's called the Safety Act. I call it the Purge Law. It's kind of ironic that they called it the Safety Act. What it does, it eliminates cash bail and will generally allow those charged crimes, with most crimes, to remain free pending trial. Mm. We're going to get into it here on the Morning Buzz. Plus, I've got something from Nancy May. She goes after this ABC hack, and she just presents all of this evidence about the impeachment inquiry and why the impeachment inquiry was made by Kevin McCarthy. That's next. Has anyone asked him to show his work? How did he arrive to his conclusion? Oh, I'm sure you're talking about Dick Durbin and how he arrived to the conclusion that supplements are bad. See, that's the thing. He doesn't need a reason. He doesn't need evidence. Although we have decades and decades of people not overdosing on vitamin C and vitamin D, and it actually showing an improvement in people's health, and we have all of the evidence that backs uh, that shows that supplements are actually good for you. And not to mention just the logical part of it. Our food has been modernized and processed, and we don't get the micro and macronutrients that we used to get in raw food. And hence, this is why we need supplements. It's hard to eat all of the time. It's hard to eat all of the time and eat proteins all of the time, because of our very busy lifestyles. I'm sure you're like me in a way that you forget to eat sometimes, and you're like, "Oh shoot, I forgot to eat." And you're not going to get your protein in that way for that day, or your minerals, your supplements, your vitamins. So that is why we supplement. Okay, and we used to eat dirt with our food because we didn't wash our hands, and that's the way we did it. We ate raw food, and we got our supplements and our magnesiums, and we literally got our minerals from eating dirt. That's how we got our minerals in, and we were outside for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, because we didn't have office jobs. One thing I also found too is that, there's this big push against religion, specifically, monotheism. I will say that, and I think that there's even a health aspect to that too, because um, your religious fasts. So if you're religious, there's a lot of religious fasts that you will do. And there was, you don't hear about cancer and how they had to deal with cancer in the olden days. I do believe that fasting, and this is, not just me, it's just decades of health studies that have said that, hey, fasting is actually prevents getting cancer. Not entirely, okay, but it can help in preventing cancer because what your body does, it eats up all of these cells when you're fasting, and it prevents like the growth of bad cells or something like that. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, but there's a push against religion, and there's spiritual or religious practices that actually aid in your health. It's almost like God knew what he was doing, right? When he said that you should fast, or Jesus said that you should fast, right? It's almost like he knew what he was talking about. And they're all about that body positivity. They're all about, you not fasting and you not participating in religious practices. So, just a quick story. I had somebody, look at me sideways. They were like, "Wait a second, you fast religiously, like for a few days? Why do you do that?" And it's like, because not only is it good for your spiritual man, but it's also good for your physical man. It's like Jesus knew what he was talking about. Uh, and there's this push against religion, but there's also this push against, now we're seeing the FDA wanting to dip its dirty little fingers into the supplement industry because they want to take out a competitor. Okay, the FDA is part of the biggest drug cartel that is big pharma, and they want to they truly want to take your health decisions out of your hands, and they want you to shut up, pull up your sleeve, and take one of our FDA approved vaccines. We're going to be talking with Mike Coolidge. We're probably going to be talking about the Safety Act. Yeah, let's bring him on. Test, test, test.
Hear me,
Mike
Cat, or
Coolidge.
no?
I can
Do you?
sure hear you.
Oh, great! Woohoo! Wanted to make
Woohoo!
sure.
We're not on air quite yet. Guys, welcome to the stream. Mike Coolidge. He is a conservative, lifelong conservative activist. He is also working with this really cool podcast that I want you to talk about when we come back to air. You want to talk about the Safety Act today?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's just. Yeah, I can talk a little bit about how we got to where we are now, and then the situation in the whole state of Illinois about how it is the only state in the country where there's no cash bail. We're essentially Chicago, the entire state.
Mhm. The entire state. Well, we're going to be back in just about 30 seconds. Hang out for just a sec, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, and I can talk about the AM Greatness podcast. We just released a new one this morning. It's phenomenal with Andrew Clavin. I fast too.
Patriot Power Plug. I love Tuesdays because Patriot Power Plug is brought to you by Rooted Apparel and Nomad Auto Detailing. So, first, Rooted Apparel. Rooted Apparel, if you guys are watching me live on the stream, that's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, you can see me in studio doing the radio show every morning, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. On Tuesdays, I love to give a plug to Rooted Apparel. So I'm wearing my Rooted Apparel today. I've got my pray shirt on because we truly do need to pray for America. We're going to talk about how we need to pray for Illinois because we're going to be dealing with the purge law, as I like to call it. It's not the Safety Act. They ironically called it the Safety Act. It does everything but keep public safety at the forefront. And Rooted Apparel, if you go to their website, which is in the link of the YouTube description, that's rootedapparelco.com. If you go there and you shop around for your t-shirt, your Christian apparel, you can use the promo code CAT, that's C-A-T, at checkout for 20% off. Also, Nomad Auto Detailing. Love Brooks from Nomad Auto Detailing. They have this new location. You can go find them at nomadauto.detailing.com. Find them on the web. And they are a proud sponsor of the Patriot Power Plug. And every Tuesday, Mike and I, we get together. And Mike is a former congressional candidate and Army officer. He was also a PAC spokesman. And he hosted this really awesome show. It was called The Mike Coolidge Show. And he's currently working on this American Greatness. And you guys can look it up on YouTube. I've already subscribed. They've got like near 10,000 subscribers already. And they've got some podcasts out there. So, Mike, tell me a little bit about the podcast American Greatness.
Yes, Kat, thanks again for having me on. I always look forward to this Tuesday morning with you and your listeners and the morning buzz. Wow, this podcast, American Greatness, if you go to it on YouTube, it's the only place you can get it right now. We will be putting it on other platforms soon, but it's just on YouTube right now. And we just dropped our fourth one with Andrew Klavan, a man who was an agnostic Jewish intellectual and converted to Christianity. And he's a author, a novelist, extremely successful, has all these awards. He also does his own podcast for the Daily Wire. It's one of the most fascinating discussions I've ever heard just about life between our host, Dan Proft, and Andrew Klavan. The one on Friday was with Victor Davis Hanson, everyone's favorite conservative intellectual, also our star writer at American Greatness. And we have previous interviews also with Patrick Moore from EcoSense Now on climate alarmism, extremism, and Alex Berenson on the return of COVID 1.5, the COVIDians, the COVIDians strike back. So we're doing these quality over quantity. We are putting so much time and effort into these podcasts, and yeah, you can see there on the screen, the latest one just dropped this morning, actually just 2 hours ago. So no one even knows about it. Your listeners probably are the first to be able to consume it. I promise you, it is really, really awesome. Andrew Klavan and Dan Proft is the host. Who, it's so interesting, Kat, like you and I have this conversation on the air, and you, of course, interview listeners or interview guests. Dan Proft is like an intellectual in his own right, having conversations with fellow conservative intellectuals. And it's just so amazing. Like one commenter said, stop making me smarter, because when you listen and consume these interviews, you just become, it's like reading a philosophy textbook, but being entertained the entire time when you're consuming these. So yeah, I encourage everyone to go to American Greatness on YouTube and download them. And yes, they will be available on Rumble and Spotify and everywhere else very, very soon.
Awesome. Well, American Greatness, I'm subscribed, and I can't wait to find out more about the converting. So he was Jewish, and then he converted to Christianity, which is really interesting. So I'm excited. Now, one thing that I wanted to chat with you about, Mike Coolidge, was a couple of things. So first, let's start with the Safety Act. JB tweets out this morning. I'm a sucker for the JB tweets. I love reading them because I'm a psychopath. But he tweets out this morning that it's actually going to prevent violent criminals from being out on the streets. So
No.
tell me how we got to this point where the Illinois Supreme Court ultimately upheld the Safety Act. Kankakee County, they shut it down, but it got to the Illinois Supreme Court and they upheld the law.
Yeah, and that had everything to do with the fact that J.B. Pritzker contributed handsomely, 7 figures, to the candidacies of 2 of the Supreme Court justices who did not recuse themselves from that hearing. And the Safety Act is now the law of the land, and it is in effect now throughout the whole state of Illinois. We're the only state in the country that has no cash bail, which means for a variety of extreme crimes, violent crimes, you mentioned psychopaths actually committing crimes, you as the victim can see that perpetrator out on the street the moment after he's booked. I mean, you go to the police station and he's arrested, or she, and is booked and all that, and they don't go to the jail cell. They go out on the street for a variety of crimes. Now, J.B. Pritzker and the proponents of this say, well, the judge has discretion of, yes, like the super extreme, like second-degree murder and that kind of thing. You're going to go to jail. And they say a judge has a discretion. But the other thing is you have a trial date. It's much like the situation at our border. You have a trial date that these perpetrators have set, and there's no incentive whatsoever for them to show up to that trial date later. So, they already broke a law they don't care about. This purge law, which is what we call it, which is the moniker that grew. If you remember in the fall, Joe Rogan talked about it. Greg Gutfeld on his show talked about it, about our effort to get more people to understand how crazy this law is nationally. Dan Proft, speaking of which, was on Tucker Carlson talking about it. It is the worst law in the country, by far, the absolute worst law in the country. And now time has ticked forward and it is officially in effect. A week ago, it was not. Now it is. I think it was yesterday, September 18th. So,
and I think
sure,
it's going to, I think that it'll take some time to see the crime. I mean, it's going to increase, right? We know that it's going to increase because you can look at Cook County. So I've actually got the numbers here. Bail reform changes in Cook County have led to substantial increases in crime committed by pretrial releases in Cook County. The number of released defendants charged with committing new crimes increased by 45%. The number of pretrial releases charged with committing new violent crimes increased by 33%. So these are, it was an empirical estimate, and they did a study, and we've already seen it play out in Cook County. That's what really peeps me off about this law. We already have the numbers that show that ending cash bail does nothing to end crime. It only increases violent criminals. I just read it, it increased it because Cook County eliminated cash bail a long time ago. Not completely. I think they just kind of played around with it.
Yeah. And those of us on the right get criticized when we say that the left and Democrats, don't love our country or don't love our state, or, want to just create mayhem and chaos. It's so hard not to make that accusation when you see results occur after terrible laws are passed and in effect. And Democrats don't say, oh my gosh, wow, this didn't work. We shouldn't have done this. Let's go ahead and undo this because this clearly didn't work. Like, for example, it was not many years ago, I think it was in Texas, when a city in Texas decided to make anything stolen out of a store that costs less than $900 it would be a misdemeanor. You wouldn't be arrested for theft. So criminals started talking, word gets around real fast these days with social media. Hey, we can go into this store here and steal $500, $600, $700 worth of stuff and walk right out, and we're gonna be fine. We're not even gonna get in trouble. We're probably not even gonna get arrested. Let's go ahead and do it. And that happened. And then you see now, just gosh, YouTube, Rumble, look at any TikTok, Google any sort of thing about these mob dashes that go into stores. Michigan Avenue in Chicago, of course, is the epicenter for that, where these criminals, these hoodlums, go and steal all this stuff and have no consequences for it. Now, that's awful and terrible and is boarding up, buildings and stores and is killing jobs, etc. Think about what we have now, where violent acts in many cases are going to not have consequences to them. And
Mhm.
criminals, again, it's like the worst. Every single criminal was a kid at one point. It was a bad kid probably, and probably tested their parents and probably had no sense of, hey, you shouldn't do that. That's wrong. Here's the negative consequences to it. And when they keep doing things and negative consequences don't come up, they just keep doing them. Hey, I stole
Yeah.
all this stuff. I'm gonna get all this stuff. I rammed this guy off the road and I kept going, and cops aren't pursuing me, and I'm not going to jail. And it's a recipe for chaos. It's a recipe for disaster. And here it is in Illinois as we speak.
And the reason why that, so people start to ask me, okay, why would they do something like that? What's the reason why they say, okay, I think that there's a much more nefarious plan afoot. I'm
I do
just going to
too.
be honest. Think
Yep.
that they really want to see the demise of the state and the country, and
Yeah.
I think that Illinois is a big contributor to the demise of the rest of the nation. But they say that it's because of the Black and brown communities, right? So I'm quoting the Cook County Board president here. They said that money bond system wrongly tied access to financial resources to pretrial freedom. The result has been countless individuals, mostly Black and brown communities, spending days, weeks, months, and years in jail just for being poor. Okay, so this is absurd to me because the Black population might be out of the jails, but we're going to see the morgue population, the Black morgue population, just increase and skyrocket because the homicide victims, 54% of homicide victims are the Black population,
Yes.
Black people, and they make up 14% of the population.
Yes.
So it's like, whoa, that statistic should floor you. And now we're going to see more Black people in the morgue. So if these people really cared about Black people and brown communities, then they would be making it harder to commit crimes, not easier.
Yes. The likelihood of being a victim of a crime in Chicago, let's say, is empirically much higher if you are a black or brown person. African Americans are the victims of crime more than anyone else by fellow African Americans. That's a statistic that is unfortunate to express, but it's true. But it's funny, the left is so obsessed about victimhood, but the one victims that they don't really seem to care all that much about are victims of crime. And the fact that so many African Americans in inner cities are victims of crime, and that will increase. That number is going to increase. That doesn't seem to be cared as something that the Pritzkers of the world care about. They care about the perpetrators of the crimes. It's never talked about like what are they all innocent? Were they all wrongly arrested and like all people of all races, all colors, of any who did any sort of crime? Are 100% of them, or 80% of them, or even 30% of them? Are there's convictions thrown out? No. Most of the time, those arrests result in people going to jail because they were tried by a jury of their peers and were sent to jail. They did the crimes. But so if a lot of these people who commit these crimes get thrown in jail and they don't have bail, that somehow is a tragedy. No, I'm sorry. You shouldn't have committed the crime in the first place. And there are things you do. Did you get arrested last week, Kat? I know I didn't get arrested because I didn't steal anything or I didn't attempt to. That's the kind of thing.
Really easy.
Yeah, don't commit crimes, and you won't find
Yeah.
yourself in a position where you can't afford bail.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people this all of the time, even just avoid bad situations. Don't be out late at night. Don't hang out with the wrong crew, right? This is just basic things that your parents should be telling you. This is why I think that the Black community is so affected by this, and nobody really wants to talk about fatherless homes. That's the reason why the crime rate is so high amongst the Black population.
It's a major contributing factor. It's a major contributing factor that they don't have people in their lives early on who say, no, what you just did there's a really, really bad idea. don't
Mhm.
hit that person who bumped into you. Don't join that gang because you have this sense of camaraderie or whatever with them, because they're gonna make you commit crimes or possibly even shoot someone.
Mhm.
These, and then don't steal that stuff. It's wrong. It's ethically and morally wrong, let alone the fact that you might go to jail if you
Mhm.
commit that or if you attempt to steal that stuff. But in so many criminals' minds, again, all races, just any single person who has a situation where they can go in a thing and they don't care about whether right or wrong is an option here. They just know that if they steal that, they're going to get to keep it and they're not going to go to
Mm.
jail. Well, wouldn't you do that? I mean, again, if morals and ethics are out the window and you're not going to have a negative consequence to stealing that, you're probably going to do it. And that's, again, the fault. That last part is the fault of the Democrats who passed this. Remember, 100 of 102 states attorneys, Democrats included, throughout the state were against this. There were some good Democrats. The majority of Democrat states attorneys throughout the state were against the Safety Act. And still it got through. It got passed because Chicago Democrats run the roost, if you will. And here we are.
Yeah, I know, and it's tragic. And one thing that I want to talk about just really briefly with you, Mike, before you go, we're talking with Mike Coolidge. He's actually the Ogle County Republicans chairman, Mike
Yes.
Coolidge. So
Big
one
Stillman
thing I
Valley
want.
Parade this weekend.
Ooh, and I wanted to talk with you about that. So I actually did a story, and you can go read it. It's called "Keeping Kids in the Closet at District 87." So I found that the Bloomington Education Association, via the National Education Association and the IEA, these teachers unions, they have been telling teachers in the Bloomington district, and really just the NEA has been telling all teachers unions across the nation to do this, where you withhold your child's gender identity from or the student's gender identity from the parent. So it explicitly, the email to teachers says you have to get written consent from the child in order to disclose their gender identity to their parents. So you have to get written consent. You cannot out. So the exact language is that a requirement that staff not out youth or disclose their identities to others, including youth's parents and guardians, without the youth's written consent. So you have to get written consent. So I don't know. I thought that teachers were kind of mandated reporters, and we're starting to see this kind of manifest in Virginia. There was a Virginia high school student, tragic story where she ran away from home. She was sex trafficked across multiple states, and now there's a lawsuit. The parent wasn't informed by the school that she was struggling with her gender identity, and she was actually bullied. And they couldn't tell the parent that she was being bullied because that would have caused the school to have to disclose her gender identity because she was being bullied because of her gender identity. So they withheld all of this from the parents. I thought that they were mandated reporters, the teachers anyway. I don't even know if this is legal. Can the teachers union really say like, "Hey, you can't, or you have to keep this information from parents"? And they explicitly say you have to keep this information from parents.
As I understand it, in Illinois, that is legal. I do have friends who are teachers in Virginia before Glenn Youngkin, and that specific thing you talked about was the reason Glenn Youngkin won, because it was the same thing. They were, and I have a friend who's a teacher who said I was not allowed. I would have got fired if I went to a parent and say, "Hey, Jimmy wants to now go by Melissa." I would have got fired for that. Now they switched the exact opposite. When Glenn Youngkin won, Republican governor in Virginia, he said, "Now you will get in trouble if you don't tell the parent that your
Mm.
kid decides to go to a different way." That is the way it should be. Here in Illinois, we're obviously, so far away from Virginia, flipping a state to a Republican. And I haven't dug into the legal language of that, but it doesn't shock me that that email is sent out. And I wouldn't doubt that if that was sent up the flagpole, if you will, that the state would side with the NEA and say, because they're completely in the pocket of them, saying, yeah, no, you better not tell those parents. And this is what frustrates me sometimes when I hear fellow conservatives say, I'm just throwing my hands up. I don't need to vote. I don't need to get involved with my local, Republican Party. I don't need to get involved in school boards for sure. You do, because if you don't, even in your deep red county, like I live, Ogle County is a deep red county. All board members of the county are Republican. Not so for the school boards. There's a lot of Democrats on school boards and library boards and stuff in the county. You have to pay attention to these municipal elections. You have to get involved. And sometimes, even if you have a majority Republican school board, you're going to have you're going to have your hands tied with the state, because again, look at the Safety Act. There's only so far you can go. It's going to take massive change at the state level for some of this stuff. But if you've got a majority rational thinking school board, you can at least pause or slow down some of this insane craziness that's happening in our schools.
Yeah. Well, with this story, it's going to be up to the district to stand up and to say, "Hey, no, teachers union. That's really towing a line here." There's other lawsuits nationwide. We don't really want to mucky the waters here and play this. We get to decide when to disclose your kid's gender identity to you, even though you're the parent. And leftists should be mad about this too, because. I thought leftists loved when their kids came out to them. They'll claim that, they're assuming that parents are going to abuse their children if they come out to them as gay or they won't affirm them. And I feel like leftists should be pretty peeved off about this as well, because how are you ever going to affirm your child's identity if you aren't aware of that identity?
It's insidious and sinister. It's a way to wedge yourself in between a parent and a child, and anyone ever attempting to do that is 100% morally and ethically devoid of a soul, if you will. That is so wrong to try to inject yourself between a parent and a child, and I'd tell any kid. If some adult ever comes up to you and say, hey, don't tell this to your mom, don't tell this to your dad, this is between you and me, that's really, really messed up, and you should immediately go and tell your mom and dad.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Mike, thanks so much for joining me here on Patriot Power Plug. You have a great rest of your day. Folks, don't forget to go follow Mike Coolidge on Twitter. That's KOOLIDGE on Twitter. And then also go subscribe to the American Greatness podcast. It's on YouTube only right now. They are looking into getting it on Rumble and other channels, but go check it out on YouTube. It's called American Greatness. Mike, have a great one.
You too, Kat.
All right, we're going to be back, folks, talking about the Safety Act. Big thank you to Nomad Auto Detailing. Folks, detailing your car, it is something that you need to do. It's just maintenance, okay? This is something that you should do, is detailing your car, and I can't think of anybody greater than Nomad Auto Detailing. They've been Brooks has been detailing cars since before he could drive. So he's got plenty of experience. Go find them. It's nomadautodetailings.com. All right, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching right now, I can see you're watching. Go ahead and smash that like button. We're going to get to a few of your comments here. Darren, you had some really great ones about the Safety Act. As soon as the gangbangers find out they're no longer needing cash money or bail money, violent crime will increase exponentially. And I read through some of these statistics for you, and I'm just going to throw this up on the screen for you, my statistics from Cook County, because we've already gotten statistics that prove that bail reform, or like ending cash bail, is actually really bad for crime. So bail reform in Cook County, bail reform changes, so not even completely eliminating it, just bail reform, has led to substantial increase in crime committed by pretrial releases in Cook County. Of the number of released defendants charged with committing new crimes increased by 45%. So that's just new crimes. Then we look at pretrial releases charged with committing new violent crimes. That increased by 33%. And I've got that study. If you guys want it, I can share it with you. The numbers, since they've done bail reform in Cook County, people have committed new pretrial defendants charged with committing new crimes increased by 45%. Okay, so this is, and then violent crimes. On top of that, it's 33%. So we're going to be talking about that. Black people, the homicide victims, 54%. Black people make up 54% of homicide victims, even though they're about 14% of the population. So the lack of bail for people accused of crime will no doubt increase the crime rate, which will subsequently increase the amount of Black victims and amount of Black people in the morgue. So, yeah, maybe it'll decrease the Black population in jails, but it's going to increase the Black morgue population. Okay, progressives, if they actually cared about Black and brown communities, they would be making it harder to commit crimes, not easier, considering the fact that they make up 54% of the homicide victims in this country. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Plus, Nancy Mace is out there. She is roasting this ABC hack. John Carl is his name, and he claims that there's no evidence. There's no evidence for um, for Kevin McCarthy to be able to impeach Joe Biden. And I want to make this clear. Kevin McCarthy is not impeaching Joe Biden. He has opened up an impeachment inquiry. Nancy Pelosi did this, but for far less. There was a whistleblower who said that he overheard a conversation on a phone call with Donald Trump, and that is what led to the impeachment inquiry. They set the precedent of opening up impeachment inquiries, and what inquiries do, it just gives it the tools. It just gives the House Oversight Committee and the House, the Republicans, the ability to look into this further. Now, Democrats should be looking into this further, but they won't. Go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to be back in just a few moments. We've got so much to get to. Now, Nancy Mace. Oh, boy. So she has been going after this ABC hack. And look, Kevin McCarthy, he opens up this impeachment inquiry. That is key, okay, into the shady business dealings of Joe Biden and the Biden crime family. The talking points from the White House are to claim that there's no evidence. Okay, that's the talking points the White House has given the media, the corporate journalismers, okay? And they are supposed to say that Joe Biden never did anything wrong, that he didn't do anything wrong, and that there's no evidence to suggest that he did anything wrong. And by talking points, I actually mean talking points. It's not the snarky thing that I like to do where I say corporate journalismers, they suck at life and they created these talking points. No. I actually mean the White House left actual talking points as they were leaving their money on Oliver Darcy's nightstand. Okay, they were leaving their money on that. No. But the White House actually did send out a memo to some mainstream media outlets, and they said, hey, you need to start going after, you need to ramp up attacks against Republicans, and you need to not cover Joe Biden in such a negative light when it comes to these impeachments, the impeachment inquiry. Essentially, that's what the memo said. Okay, so literally they sent out talking points to the media about the impeachment inquiry and how to cover it. So we've got on Sunday, John Carl fighting it out with Republican Nancy Mace. Now, I'm not a fan of Nancy Mace, but it's clear the absurd lengths that these corporate journalismers will go to lie for Joe Biden. I mean, even by their own standards about this impeachment inquiry, they are lying their pants off. Okay. And Nancy Mace wasn't going to stand for it. Now, the same people who claim that Russell Brand is guilty of all of these sex allegations, because Kristen Bell made a joke during a press junket for forgetting Sarah Marshall, which is a movie, swear that there's no evidence that Joe Biden is a corrupt jerk. Okay, these are the same people. I am going to be getting to Russell Brand here and how there's all kinds of sex allegations against him, and the Me Too mafia has been weaponized against him. I truly believe that. I don't know for a fact, okay? Is he a rapist or is he a target of the Me Too mafia? I don't know. I don't think that he would be having these articles written about him if he were to be a left winger, or if he were to still be making movies in Hollywood or for Hollywood. Okay, so I think there's a reason why Russell Brand is being attacked, because he's not even really a conservative. He just is anti-mainstream. So these are the same people who are saying Russell Brand is guilty because Kristen Bell made a joke one time at a presser for this movie that they made together, are the same people saying that there's no evidence that Joe Biden is this corrupt jerk. So here we have it. It was ABC News hack, John Carl with Nancy Mace. Let's play this here for you. And guys, I'm always live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You can see me live in studio. You can see all of my show prep, my receipts. I take a lot of time to try to bring you the news of the day and try to back it up with hard facts. Okay, so here is what I'm talking about. Here's Nancy Mace and John Carl on ABC.
Let me also ask you before you go, the impeachment inquiry that McCarthy announced, even though he had said he wouldn't do it without a vote, and then a few days later he does it without a vote. I want to read you something that Ken Buck, one of your Republican colleagues, had to say in a Washington Post op-ed of the impeachment inquiry. He said, impeachment is a serious matter and should have a foundation of rock-solid facts. Trump's impeachment in 2019 was a disgrace to the Constitution and is a disservice to Americans. The GOP's reprise in 2023 is no better. He says these allegations against the Biden family are part of an imagined history and a fictitious version of events. Was this premature, going all the way with an impeachment inquiry?
I don't believe so. The facts are everywhere. There are text messages, there are emails, there are witnesses, there are whistleblowers, there are meetings, there are phone calls, there are dinners. And you can't say, hey, there's a little bit of smoke, we're not going to follow the fire. And the inquiry, my understanding is, as you said earlier, gives us expanded subpoena powers. I want the bank records of Joe Biden. All of that should be on the table to prove out the allegations in the SARS reports. We're talking about a significant sum of money. We are talking about bribery. And in the Constitution, Article 2, Section 4, that is the basis for impeachment.
There's no evidence of bribery.
There are witnesses. The 1023 form. There are, you know,
and you've been investigating. I mean, you're on the oversight.
There is evidence. You can't say that there's no evidence when there is evidence. And quite frankly,
there's no evidence.
It was the fourth estate. It was the media and journalists when Nixon was going down that helped do that investigation, helped bring down the president when he broke the law. And you know, you guys want to deny that there's evidence? It's everywhere, and the bank records will prove it out.
All right, we will see. I haven't seen much yet. But Congressman Nancy Mace, thank you for being.
Oh, gosh, I love how he ends it there. He goes, oh, we will see. We will see. What do you mean? There's text messages, emails. You have seen there's multiple whistleblowers. There's meetings. There's phone calls. There's dinners. And here we got John Carl on ABC. He says that there's no video of Joe Biden. Of course, there is no video of Joe Biden looking into the camera saying, I'm a corrupt jackwagon. Okay, but that doesn't mean that there's no evidence. There's emails, phone calls, the WhatsApp message. Nancy Mace reminded Carl of Watergate when journalismers were journalists and the president was a Republican. I think that they did my boy Nixon dirty, but because he was a Republican, there's been an attack on the Republicans and true Republicans for quite some time. But the media and the journalists, they went after Nixon and they brought him down. Okay. And they were all too ready to bring that president down when he broke the law. And, you know, guys, you want to deny the evidence of Joe Biden, that's fine. But it's very telling when you won't go after this president just because he's a Democrat. You're not going to go after Joe Biden because he's Democrat. And I want to point this out. This is so important. The whole point of an inquiry is to obtain further evidence. Nancy Mace kind of screwed up there. She should have said, it doesn't, like, yes, okay, we have evidence. We have enough evidence to probably impeach him. But we have just opened up an impeachment inquiry. So this is a way to get and obtain further evidence. Nancy Pelosi, she opened up an impeachment inquiry into because Donald Trump, because a whistleblower claimed to eavesdrop on the former president making a phone call. Okay, that was all they had to open up this impeachment inquiry. McCarthy has an IRS whistleblower, Hunter Biden's own business partner, his own business partner in other shady business dealings and receipts, numbers, these different 20 shell company accounts going into the Biden family coffers. Okay. This justifies him opening up an inquiry, which is to obtain further evidence. Nancy Pelosi had far less. John Carl is corrupt. His colleagues are corrupt. And they can run around the studio all they want with their fingers in their ears screaming, la, 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 I'm not hearing you, la, la, la. But it doesn't matter because the investigation is happening. If journalismers want to keep sabotaging and standing in the way of the American people, that's on them. The last time I looked at a poll ranking our institutions, the media ranked below stepping on a pile of dog crap and then not realizing it and then walking on carpet. Okay, so people don't like you. The people don't like the media. Okay, you guys rank low when it comes to institutions. Do want to shift gears here. Let's talk about Russell Brand. I kind of alluded to that earlier. Russell Brand, I think the Me Too Mafia is after him. I don't know for sure, but is he a rapist or is he the latest target of the Me Too Mafia? And on Saturday, we start seeing several UK media outlets accusing Russell Brand of sexually assaulting 4 different women. These women are unnamed, and they have accused Brand of sexual misconduct from 2006 to 2013. One woman claims that Brand raped her. Another alleged victim says that Brand sexually assaulted her when she was 16 years old, which is the age of consent in the UK. And then another woman claimed that Brand sexually assaulted her and then threatened her with legal action if she were to talk about that allegation. And then the fourth woman says that Brand sexually assaulted her and physically and emotionally was abusive to her. So when I read articles like this, they're mostly about what they claim is controlling and bullying behavior and having negative sexual experiences. That's very different from rape. Okay, so I'm not saying that doesn't mean it didn't happen. Okay, I don't know. I don't know who Russell Brand is. I'm just looking at the article, and here's in all of the articles. So they start out with the word rape. Okay, right away. When I read an article and it's about rape, and then they start to add these different, like, well, he was mentally abusive, he was bullying, he was doing all of this. I go, hold on a second. You already said rape. You've already hit the punchline here. Why do you have to add all of these other things? Because really, what it does, it dilutes from the accusation. Okay. This woman accusing him of rape. Why are you talking about, this one time when he treated me poorly in the grocery store? And I like that is so irrelevant to the actual story. But what they try to do is almost like justify the accusation through all of these tiny little like claims of bullying and claims of negative sexual experiences. They try to justify that accusation without actually justifying it. um so, I mean, that's when I start to read these articles, I start to question, because they are very, very quick to talk about everything but the actual crime that they are accusing Russell Brand of. They talk about everything but the rape. So Brand on Saturday, he posted a video denying the allegations of the sexual assault in its entirety. Play that here for you on the Morning Buzz. You can see it live in studio. I'm gonna play it here. Russell Brand. Um, Hang on, let me pull this up. Talking about how he's denying all of these claims. And look, folks, I think you need to know that Russell Brand is one of these people who have been very outspoken against the mainstream media. He's been very outspoken about the vaccines, and I don't think that this would be happening to him if he was an outspoken liberal. Do you think that these attacks would happen if Russell Brand was still promiscuous today, if he was still an outspoken liberal, and if he was still making movies for Hollywood? I think that there's a cabal of journalists who have decided that if certain people don't have that these certain people don't have have a right to a point of view. Russell Brand, I'm sorry, you don't have a right to the point of view, right to an opinion, because you're not a part of our group anymore. So here we go. Here's what Russell Brand says.
This isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received two extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies. And as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? Particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan, when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of. And we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out, Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close to the truth. Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles, Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist, Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean,
Yes. So I wouldn't be shocked to hear that this is just a cabal of journalists that have decided to go after Russell Brand. And of course, all of these allegations are coming out over a decade. Okay, so they're accusing him of 2006 to 2013. These are all unnamed women. And this all happened a decade ago. And I don't know. I just don't think that these attacks would be happening if he was still the outspoken liberal that he used to be, and if he was the promiscuous guy that he used to be today. So I do need to take a break. When we come back, I do have to discuss a little bit of McDonald's. There's a devastating financial blow to their company. They're going to probably have to change up their business model because California is signing this bill, and the bill it's going to be really bad. It's going to cost each restaurant in the state of California about $250,000 annually. That's next. McDonald's, yee. They're slamming this new draconian California fast food law, and they're saying that this is going to be a financial blow. So this is a big deal, folks, because it could change up the business model for McDonald's, and it might change the McDonald's near you. If you go to McDonald's, I choose not to go to McDonald's. So I haven't gone into a McDonald's for years now, and I have no idea what a hamburger costs nowadays, but it's probably going to cost about $10 a burger after this new bill. I've got to take a quick break, but the California, they passed this AB 1228, and what it does, it has a wage floor of $20. So for California at fast food chain workers at fast food chains, at least at 60 locations starting on April 1st. So you have to pay them $20. I'm sorry, but I'm sure fast food workers have nothing to worry about. It's not like the cashiers will all be replaced with iPads or something like that. That's exactly what's going to happen, folks. They're going to be replaced with iPads, these poor cashiers in California. I've got more on it here coming up in just a little bit. You're listening to The Morning Buzz. Good morning, folks. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. This is The Morning Buzz, and joining me, we're going to check to see if her equipment is working and if we're good. Willard Hellander. Am I saying that correct?
Actually, Helander.
Helander. Okay, Willard Helander, she's joining me. We actually got in contact with a good friend of mine, Kim Miller. She's with the McLean County Republicans and does a lot of community activism here locally in McLean County. And one thing that she was telling me about was voting and the voter rolls and what your group is actively doing. And we're going to be coming back to the radio. But first, can you tell me a little bit about you, Willard? And you're actually the former Lake County clerk. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm actually a speech therapist who went to law school, law license, and then I moved from banking and work like that into raising my children, and started a nonprofit. And then I was asked to run for office. And I said, and why would I do that? And several people said, because you'd work hard and do a good job. And I'm like, oh, now you're talking to me. So I served as county clerk for 24 years.
Wow. And so you've got some experience in this thing that we call elections, huh?
Yes, I was there for the beginning of the motor voter law that was signed. It was the second bill signed by President Clinton when he was elected. And that had been on the push for many, many years. And we saw a real transformation nationally in procedures, in court cases. In Illinois, had a bifurcated ballot for a while. You could get a federal ballot and a state ballot. But yep, and then of course, when I was there, I really pushed to bring the office into the 20th century, not the 21st. It was all typewriter driven, an old mainframe. People couldn't even do a mail merge. So I'm not a techie, but I'm like, this is ridiculous. We're not cost effective. So we set about with a wonderful group of people that had worked there for many years to say, hold hands with me, let's jump off the cliff and make it better. And one of the things that really tied into how we can work together in the community with government, I'm a big believer in education, communication, collaboration, no secrets. We're an open book. And I was so happy that we had a partnership with the Lake County Genealogical Society. I had walked into the office and found all these very wonderful documents from the 1800s loose in drawers, chipping away from dryness. And as a bit of a genealogist, I reached out to some of the groups in the county, and they stepped up as partners. We could have never afforded what we needed. And they came in and actually photocopied on acid-free. Well, they did it on plain paper, these very fragile documents, hand traced them to darken them, photocopied them on acid-free, and created permanent records and indexes for the public doing their genealogical research. And I see a fast forward that there's a tide of that way we can all work together to make a process better when the funding to do that could be pretty much impossible. And that's kind of why I'm involved right now, because I really care about public confidence in elections. I truly appreciate the job that the local election officials have, and I want all those spirits of concern and energy to work together.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why I kind of wanted to have you on today because, making it to where, there's not this anger with our local officials when you have concerns about how elections are run. I think that that is where a lot of the community, and we need to be more effective as, members of the community in trying to get our county clerks to not think that this is like an attack in some sort of way into cleaning up a voter roll and having our ducks in the row and making it effective. So that's one thing that I want to talk about what your group is doing, because you guys will actually go through voter rolls and find people who are dead or deceased, and you kind of cross-reference that with obituaries, right? And then
Yes.
you bring that list to your county clerk to get those people off the voter rolls who are currently on, say, the McLean County voter rolls. Is that correct?
Yes, and I will say one of the reasons I got involved about a year ago, actually 3 years ago, some folks came to my house and I served them lunch, and we were talking about their efforts in election integrity. And I listened and said, whenever I can be of help, just give me a call, because it was clear that well-intentioned people didn't always understand what the statute, the terminology. So you could come in and ask a question that really wasn't voicing your concern to the ears of the person hearing it. So we wanted to get everybody understanding there's a lot more to the terminology in election law, just like there is in any specialty. So yes, our group then spun up this year from many of those volunteers that were interested in having a person who could share how the process works and the steps in the law, and to understand the terminology, that it's not just simple layman's wording when you hear a word inactive voter. So absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we're going to be talking about that with our radio friends. So we're going off of the stream and we're going to be hopping on with our radio friends here in just about 30 seconds, folks. So hang out just a second here, Willard. McDonald's, they are slamming this new draconian California fast food law. McDonald's, I mean, there's a group and they call themselves the National Owners Association, and it's a group of about 1,000 McDonald's owners. And they have called the recently passed bill draconian in California. And really, what the bill does, it is on Governor Gavin Newsom's desk right now. So there's really not much they can do about it except try to get Gavin Newsom to not sign it. What it is, it includes a wage floor of $20 for California fast food workers in these fast food chains at least about 60 locations. And it's going to be starting April 1st, where you have to pay them $20 an hour, cashiers. I mean, folks, I think that the cashiers are going to be replaced here with iPads or something like that. And I hate to say that, but that's what's going to wind up happening, because this group of owners of McDonald's, they said, look, we simply cannot absorb this new cost with our current business model. So that's essentially them coming out and saying, we're going to be changing up this business model. We'll get to that bill coming up in just about like 15 minutes. But first, I want to get to the lovely, the best, Willard Helander. Now, she was the Lake County clerk for over 20 years. I think it was 24 years, she was telling me. And the live stream, you guys can see us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, The Morning Buzz. Subscribe to the channel. That's Kat Peterson. Willard joins me, and she was actually connected with me, or we got connected through a friend, Kim Miller, who is a community activist, like a community member who is trying to really raise awareness about voter roles and election integrity and election law. And you've kind of partnered with some people here in McLean County. Tell me about the group and what the group is about, and what the goal is, and how you guys kind of clean up these inactive voters. And I know we were talking about the terminology, and how you educate community members on the terminology to make it to where we're effective in trying to communicate with our county clerk. So that's Kathy Michael, McLean County Clerk Kathy Michael. How are we going to clean up these voter rolls and be effective in that and approaching Kathy Michael?
Well, our first concern as a group, and I've met people from many different counties who have a concern, is to understand your local election official like Kathy Michael. They're the expert. They know the laws, and they're the ones that you want to turn to learn. But we also have to respect the fact that they're extremely busy. Rolling into a presidential year, they'll be working into the middle of the night oftentimes to get things done. So we want to prepare. We spent the first 5 or so months that we were chatting over Zoom, reviewing our state and federal laws so people understand terminology and they know what voter registration means in Illinois. They know what list maintenance means. They understand that there are federal statutes that refer to active and inactive voters so that they don't jump to conclusions, but they're well informed. And if they still have questions, they can go to that clerk respectfully, having done their homework, and learn from the person that takes the oath, that is the expert for the county, or in the case of a election commission, which could be county or municipality. So our goal, first of all, is to be a friend, a supporter, a partner with the local official, and to ask them how we can best help them, because all of their systems can be a little bit different, the type of software they use and the procedures that happen in the office. So one of the easiest places to start with list maintenance as a layman, those of us that are not the county clerk or the executive director of a commission, is obituaries, because certainly the clerk's office doesn't have an opportunity to scan obituaries every day. And we know there's a cycle where that information will be reported. For instance, if you pass away in the county where you live, then that record easily gets to the local election official. But if you're in the hospital, say in Chicago, you may not get that record. And so the procedures for communicating that information, and we all know that a lot of people have a tragic car accident or they're on vacation in another state, even out of the country. So it's not as simple as we'd like for it to be. So we're happy to try to at least give them information that will be helpful to the process that they may not have at their disposal. And so most of our volunteers have started with the death records. And it's, every personality is different, both for the volunteer and for the elected official. If they've had a bad experience in the past where someone came in who could not listen, could only talk, they may not look forward to a volunteer. So we've asked that they be very respectful, that they may be treading into the past situation that wasn't ideal. But our volunteers are prepared to, again, listen, to be helpful, and to be persistent, because we really care. We want to see that the best possible information gets in the hands of the individual that actually does the final list maintenance and makes those decisions according to state and federal law. So, but one example would be, we've got the ability to look up, there are many tools available on the web where you can find individuals that passed away. And often, not only can you reconcile date of birth and date of death to say it looks like the same person, same town, full name, all of that matches, we realize if the name is John Smith, it could be more than one John Smith. So that requires a little deeper digging. And that might be recording the name of the surviving spouse, which would be other evidence that could be helpful to the election official, because they could look up and say, oh, yes, this individual born on this day had a spouse by this same name, and they have the ability to even perhaps check and see if they can find a death certificate that was filed maybe in Cook County or a neighboring county. One of our volunteers lives on the edge of another state, and they were very aware many of the residents of their town would actually be serviced by a hospital in the neighboring state. So they were able to look and really help their local official by checking funeral homes that are over in the other county as well, other state, and match up individuals. So we're here again just to be a partner, a helper, and to always be respectful and recognize that the local official is the one that makes the determination and is the expert on the subject matter.
Right, right. And one thing that I wanted to ask as well was, your group, you've been working at this, I mean, for a long time, right? Even as your role as a Lake County clerk, you were there for 24 years. Now, statewide, have you been able to collect state voter rolls or any kind of numbers of, inactive voters or anybody at a state? Have you been able to get those numbers? Does Illinois make it easy for you guys to get that number of who's on the voter roll?
Actually, Illinois is probably one of the more restrictive states. I've been really surprised chatting with people that are trying to help local grassroots volunteers around the country. And it's real interesting. In some states, you could just walk in and say, I care about the accuracy of the voter list, and you can purchase. And in some states, you can get it through FOIA without a cost. Illinois is more restrictive, and the restriction is you have to be a campaign committee, a political action committee to get the full list of voters. Municipalities and units of government can get the list for obvious reasons if they want to get the correct calculation for a public question on the ballot that they need to have an amendment to a law or a municipal ordinance. So it's a very restricted list. There have been, of course, legal actions on this in Illinois because the National Voter Registration Act, which we were just mentioning, signed back in 1993 by President Clinton, that requires some list maintenance access for the public, that there should be an opportunity for integrity-based groups to, because what good is list maintenance if no one can audit it? It's pretty much like saying we're supposed to trust the accountant or the corporate bookkeeper, but no one can check the books. So the point of the federal statute is we know we broadened access to voter registration with NVRA, National Voter Registration Act, that it became based in government agencies such as your driver's license facility. But there were a number of other agencies that each state could select this. So you might be applying for a medical care at a county health department, and you could be going to a food pantry. All of those would be offering you voter registration, but their staff are not trained. It's not their primary goal. So we know the focus on the details of what you need to properly register a vote is degraded by it being sort of an add-on. And also the big factor with the motor voter law was it became an honor system because there's a mail-in form as well. And now we have an online registration that has come in years after that, after year 2000. So individuals can go door to door. It was never couched as a law that was meant to be for advocacy groups in its plain reading of the bill, but it certainly functions in that way, that you could be actually compensated to go door to door, to gather or to stand at a train station or to walk through a parking lot. And in those cases, if you're motivated, my colleagues all over the country, we would meet. I used to represent Illinois on joint lobbying in Washington. And we would hear that, you fail a potential voter if you're an advocate that's more interested in the quantity and getting paid than in the accuracy of what data is needed for the person to become a registered voter. So we all agreed, no matter what our personal opinions were on honor system for mailing, that you needed protections for the voter, not to have their information missing or incomplete or inaccurate as to where they lived. So that process brings new reason for the voter list to be at best jumbled. at least inaccurate. And that's why it becomes far more of a challenge for the local election official. They don't have a hand in it getting into this condition, but they're the ones left to use it for the proper service of serving a voter by mail, in person, early voting. So we recognize that a lot of things they have to deal with, they may not have the tools to help them, where we know money's short, staff are overworked, and technology's expensive. So that's part of why we really want to just be a helper.
Yeah, and you mentioned the motor voter law. Now, I've got some people saying that they don't like that law. Why would somebody not like the motor voter law? Can you explain that law a little bit more for me?
I think the biggest complaint with motor voter is that it made the system open to an honor system. So if you receive a batch of 8,000 new registrations that were filled out, as I described, through door-to-door contact by an advocacy group, that's not an individual voter filling it out. They may have raced through. In some cases, they may have made up a name or an address because they really wanted to get that paycheck. We also saw voters who on their own filled it out, but they didn't read it carefully, or they wrote cursive and you couldn't even read it. So the standards of what you need to enter a voter on the rolls was kind of tossed to the wind. And that system makes it open to mistakes. It makes it more open to abuse. And we did have prosecutions when I was clerk, where, for instance, one woman who was apparently, according to the prosecuting attorneys, a very empathetic perpetrator, a very low ability to understand the gravity of what was occurring, had actually written out voter records for many, many people, just made up names or took them out of the phone book, and also used addresses that didn't exist. We were able to detect that, because we had coded all of our master address list in the county because the county clerk happens to create the real estate tax bills to calculate those. So we had taken every single parcel index number and matched it to the voter rolls. So if it's a tax bill, you couldn't be a voter at that address. And that we were the first in the nation to do that. We actually got an international award for it. And I think it is hopefully very common these days. But the purpose was that we want to be accurate. We don't ever want to send a voter card to a person at an address that doesn't exist. And then we're like, well, if the mailman doesn't send it back to us, where's it going? And who could be hurting the real person that doesn't know someone's done that?
Wow. Impressive. That's an impressive thing that you did as the Lake County clerk there. So that you were the first ones to do that in the nation, which I have never heard of that before. But that's kind of a smart way to check that people are actually living at those addresses. And do they pay a real estate tax on it? Do they pay property taxes on it?
And you know how I came up with the idea? My very first election, we were working on those dumb terminals and looking up on the mainframe. We had a range of street addresses. So we knew there was a block on Elm Street that ran from 900 to 950, but we didn't know every single address. Those had been handed over by different units of government when they consolidated libraries, park districts, schools, all under the clerk. And I had a lady call and say, my school district's not on the ballot. And a staff member who'd worked there many years looked her up and said, well, you're not in the school district. She said, yes, I am. They went back and forth. I took the call and I said, madam, ma'am, your kids, you're not in the district. She goes, my kids go to the school every day. I put them on the bus. I was like, uh-oh, we have a problem, Houston. So that's when you don't have to be techie, just common sense. If we're creating the real estate tax bill, everybody looks at that. You want to know that you're only paying taxes to the unit of government that serves your address. But if your voter card comes in, nobody picks it up and scrutinizes it. They might look to see where they vote. So that's why it was incumbent on us to merge those two systems. Although we didn't have relational databases, we had to sort of create that. I had to first ask the county board to give me a computer because we didn't have any PCs. But we got that hurdle and moved forward. And it really did move our accuracy. And we learned something at that time. The county's map services department under the IT did not have standards. When you sat at a desk, I think 8 or 10 people, when there was a new subdivision coming in or subdividing a piece of land, they didn't necessarily use the same entry standards. And some person might put A for avenue, another AVE, and another spell it out. So we had to write formatting to find all the jumbles before we were able to match up property records with voting records. But it was a wonderful, successful project. And the voter won. Our goal was, I'm a big believer, government should not be our adversary. They should not turn us away. We should be welcomed. They work for us, and we should have an open door policy that we're here to explain the things we must do, even if we don't like them necessarily, but we also need to hear from the voters if they have ideas that could help us serve them better.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Willard Helander. She served as the Lake County Clerk for over 20 years. And tell me about this organization here in McLean County. I'm sure we got to get a hold of Kim Miller to be a part of the chapter here to kind of parse through maybe inactive voter rolls and try to help our county clerk. So how do we go about doing that?
Well, the Kim is the person that has referred volunteers to me. Typically, they're people that I have met through working with the Illinois Conservative Union. We try to vet everyone so that we know they are a person that can listen and learn and be a good ambassador for good government. And Kim has referred volunteers that she knows personally or has had conversation with. And her leader on this effort in McLean County is Barbara Hale. And I'm sure when you have Kim on, she can put you in a better contact. Of course, I wouldn't give out Barbara's number on a radio program, but working through Kim's local grassroots, I'm sure we'd love to have more individuals that want to join us in being a positive force to make the process better for everybody.
Yep. And Willard, thanks so much for joining me. I so do appreciate it. You have a great rest of your morning, and thanks for all the work you've done and continue to do. I appreciate it. And I don't think that y'all get enough thanks for what you do, because that stuff, it takes time and dedication. So,
Willard, spouses miss meals. Thank you so much. Nice to speak with you.
All right. Bye-bye. Folks, we're going to be back talking with David Quinn next. He's joining me to talk a little bit about Team Blue Line, and actually a couple of officers tragically lost their life. Mark Levin talked about it in his radio program last night. I want to talk about it here on the Morning Buzz. 309-451-9299. You can be a part of the show. If you've got a question, throw it into the comments section, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. And coming up in just a little bit, we might get to this McDonald's slamming this new California law, the California law. What it essentially does, it gives it a wage floor. So they're going to have to start paying in California these fast food workers $20 an hour. And then my initial reaction was, of course, these cashiers, they're going to be replaced by an iPad. 100%. There is no way that McDonald's is going to eat this cost. And I've got the cost here. It's $250,000 annually per restaurant. So the National Owners Association, which is just about 1,000 McDonald's owners, they have said that this is draconian, and not even just the wage floor of $20. Get what else? Get this. The bill also creates a 10-person council to govern fast food chains and set guidelines for working conditions and wages. Well, that definitely doesn't sound like socialism or government takeover of private enterprise, does it? Yes, it does. It does sound like socialism. So we're going to get to that bill coming up in just a little bit. But first, David Quinn from Team Blue Line joining me in studio. David Quinn, how are you?
Morning, Kat.
Good
As
morning.
always, thanks for allowing me to come in the studio and share with the folks out there what we are actually doing with Team Blue Line.
Yeah.
Everything's going great.
Well, it's a nonprofit organization, and what you guys do here locally is try to help, and just nationwide. It's
Nationwide, yeah.
a national nonprofit that looks to help fallen officers and the families of
That's
fallen
correct.
officers.
And recently, toward the end of August, we had a local race here called Painful Elimination. It's an ultra trail race, and all the proceeds from that race came to Team Blue Line, and the total was $2,740 is what was donated from the runners to Team Blue Line. So that was a great fundraiser thing for Team Blue Line. So we are actually looking for families to help. So if anybody out there knows an officer that's in need, an officer's families that's in need, that maybe had been injured in the line of duty or shot and killed in the line of duty, just contact me, or I can put you in touch with the board members and the presidents of the Team Blue Line, and we can get those families helped.
And you can find David Quinn on our website. You can find how to contact him at cities929.com. Just click on the Back the Blue
yeah.
link. It's right under, I think it's links, and then you click on Back the Blue, and you can read about all of the races that you do and fundraisers that you take. Do you have any races coming up?
I do not personally have a race coming up till next year. We're just trying to figure out what our 2024 season is going to be. I know we'll probably be up in Wisconsin again for Ironman up there, and a couple of other marathon races that we'll be attending to as well. And probably throw it in ultra, maybe a 100-miler, who knows.
Interesting.
See how my body holds up.
Then do they help people like the folks in Chicago? Well, let's start with that story. So there's a couple of people in custody. These two police officers were hospitalized following an incident in Little Village in Chicago over the weekend. And I talked with William J. Kelly. He's a Chicago reporter. He was telling me about how now people have started to beat officers with sticks. So much so to where one officer lost an ear.
Yeah, the picture of that that officer's ear was pretty gruesome. I think they took it down shortly after they had posted it. I'm sure somebody's got a picture of it, but yeah, I mean, there's a target on the officers' backs now. I'm not sure, what led into this. People just coming out ambushing officers and fighting with them and trying to hurt officers. I mean, it stems back probably a few years with the defund the police and all that kind of stuff, and the bad rap that police got with some of the instances that happen around the country.
Yeah, well, and you hear about this kind of stuff in like developing countries or third world countries where their governments are so corrupt that the police are even worse, right? Or like they are actually bad police officers. Not here in the United States, right? We bad apples, right? But overall, we have traditionally in the United States and in the state of Illinois have respected law enforcement, and there's a respect there. But in third world countries, developing countries, they go after the police with wooden sticks like this. And
it is very sad to see that this state of affairs right now in this country, as far as the lack of respect for police, a lack of respect for just humanity in itself. I mean, downtown Chicago, I was talking to a gentleman today. He went up there to a restaurant, him and his wife, and they're walking downtown. It's just nothing but thugs just running around, acting crazy, acting stupid, fighting in the middle of the street. And this is right downtown Chicago.
Yeah.
And as far as downstate, from where we're at now, you're not seeing too much of that down here, but be ready for it. It's coming. It's just
with the passage of that Safety Act.
Well, that too, and the the no bond and all that kind of stuff is just completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I would imagine that we're going to see what happened in Cook County, and that's what the numbers that I was giving. These pretrial defendants and how they reoffend. So that number increased. So these people, these pretrial defendants, their reoffense rate was like 40%, just crimes in general. But then you look at the violent crimes, and it's not much less. It's 33% of those pretrial defendants actually go out and reoffend while they're on pretrial. 33% increase in violent crimes from those individuals. So
but that's their lifestyle. That's what they do every single day. So unless there's some sort of reform for the suspects in that whole ordeal, counseling or try to get them through, try to get them a job. I mean, most of these kids are, they could work, but they'd rather be able to stand on the street corner selling crack and marijuana and making some bucks and holding a gun.
Yeah, it's a life of degeneracy that they've chosen.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about this story as well. The retired California police chief, apparently he was deliberately mowed down and killed while riding his bike in Las Vegas by a laughing teen driver and his pal, who you can hear saying hit his butt. Right in the video, you can actually hear him saying, hit him, and the officer was riding the bicycle.
Yeah, the retired officer or retired chief of police actually was riding his bicycle down the street in a bike lane, and then these kids came up behind him, and I don't know what the mentality of these kids are these days, but put everything on Instagram or videotaping it and put it on TikTok, and the one kid in the backseat just run him over, and the guy just plowed him over. A 17-year-old kid was driving the vehicle.
Wow.
And so they don't think they charged the kid in the backseat yet, but I think the front seat passenger was also charged with some crime out there in Vegas. So it's just a sad state of affairs of where this country is at right now as far as that.
Well, and here's what I said yesterday: if they're willing to do it to a police officer, or if they're willing to do it to, I don't even know if these guys knew that he was a police chief.
I don't think so. I don't think they knew he was a police chief. It just so happened to be one.
Yeah. So it's not really even, an attack against, like you said, police officers specifically. It's just an attack against humanity. If they're willing to do it to police officers, beating them with wooden rods. And in this case, these guys didn't even really know that they were mowing down a cop or a retired police chief. So they're willing to do it to you. That's my biggest fear. And sometimes I run like you, not to the extent of David Quinn, folks. We're talking with David Quinn from Team Blue Line, and he actually does races for Team Blue Line, raises funds for officers, fallen officers and their families, and for injured officers as well. They help police officers. And when I run, people wave me and I don't go. I wave them. I will sit there and I will wait until the car goes, because I have this and maybe it's not such a place of fear. Like, I always thought I was crazy, right? But now it's like you read stories about this and you're like, well, maybe that could happen to me.
Yeah, you just got to be careful out there while you're anywhere, whether you're exercising or you're just out walking the dog or whatever it is. I mean, you always be aware of your surroundings at all times, and keep your face out of that phone as you're going down the street, just so you know that somebody's not stalking you or making advances on you to make you a victim. It happens every day. You hear it on the news, you see it on the news, and Bloomington Normal is not after that. We got that great trail system here in town that once in a while there's some weird people on there. I know my wife doesn't run by herself anymore. So I mean, she had an incident there a couple of years ago on the trail where somebody accosted her, and I was actually with her, but the guy was on a bicycle, and did some things, and I couldn't catch him.
Wow.
I know what he looks like though.
I know what he looks like, though. You don't want to mess with David Quinn.
I know what he looks like.
He served, and well, tell me a little bit about, for those of you just tuning in, you haven't been here in a little while. I want people to know your background, why you're
Yeah.
doing this, why you even are a part of
A few
Team Blue Line.
years ago, like 2017, I got hooked up with the Team Blue Line folks, and we go around and raise money for the officers' families and that are killed in line of duty and also injured in the line of duty. I've done several races. Last year, I competed in the Ironman World Championship in Kona, Hawaii, and raised a bunch of money for the officers. We actually do still assist an officer that was killed in line of duty in Hilo, which is on the opposite side of the Big Island from Kona. Send his kids through, special schooling, private schools. That's one of the things that we do, provide that family. So,
No,
people ask me, well, if I donate here in Bloomington, is the money going to stay here in McLean County? And I was like, I really hope it doesn't. If it stays here in Bloomington or McLean County, this area, that means we've had a tragedy. Which, I mean, if an officer's injured in line of duty, that's something else. But if an officer's killed in line of duty, we don't want that here. We want our officers to be safe and be able to go home to their families at night.
Yeah, exactly. And David Quinn, you have 30 plus years.
30 years,
in
yeah.
experience being law enforcement.
Right.
So tell me about the experience. You served in the sheriff's office.
Yeah, I
for
started
quite
in the
some
McLean
time.
County Jail back in 1990 with 13 other officers that they hired all at the same time. And then 5 years later, I went as a road deputy. Was hired as a road deputy and spent some time there. And in 2001, I switched over to the city of Bloomington and spent 19 years there. So which total came out to about 30 years.
Now,
It's a good gig. I mean, I would go do it again in a heartbeat.
yeah, and I'm really excited to talk with you about the city of Bloomington actually passing this. It looks like a tank, right? I don't know if you've seen it, but I think that you will be able to provide some insight as to what this vehicle. A lot of people are concerned about what the vehicle is actually going to be used for. So some background. This is a Bearcat rescue vehicle for its SWAT team. Bloomington
Right.
purchased this. Tell me about what a Bearcat is, this vehicle. Should we have concern? Because I'm not going to lie to you. I have concern.
What are you concerned about?
I'm afraid that this is why would a Bloomington City Police Department need this? Is that actually do they run into crimes that require this kind of vehicle?
Well, it's more of a preventative kind of thing too. I mean, you got to protect the officers that are responding to that particular scene, whether they're doing a search warrant and stuff like that. Because before, back in the day, there was a Chevy panel van that the SWAT team rode in. That had zero windows, and one of the SWAT officers would just drive the van. The doors would open, and then the guys would jump out. These will be a little bit more protective if somebody's got to save somebody. There's a hostage situation or there's a downed person. They can pull that vehicle up on the opposite side in between the threat and that person and save that person, whether it's an officer, whether it's just a civilian. So I mean, it could be used in several different scenarios. I mean, you just got to be ready for what's out there. And these people are not carrying just your regular old Saturday Night Special pistol. I mean, look at the town of Normal. Just took off a couple of guys up there. One guy had a fully automatic rifle, from what I understand. And so those were, I'm not sure how old those kids were that Normal PD arrested a couple of weeks ago, but those weapons are out there. There's no sense in going to a scene not being prepared.
Yeah.
It's just like the ballistic vests or ballistic shields that the officers carry in their squad cars and in the command vehicles that are out there. You got to be prepared, have all the tools that you need to accomplish the task, which is to solve the situation and take care of the threat.
Now, Chris Coos, you bring up Normal. He has said that he is not going to that Normal will be unlikely to follow Bloomington on this armored police vehicle. So, why? And we just talked about that happened in Normal. Right. So what do you think Mayor Chris Coos is afraid of purchasing one of these vehicles and being prepared?
I'm not sure what the mayor's thoughts are on that. I mean, you got to keep your officers safe, to give them every tool that they need, get them all the training that they need. And for the most part, I mean, being involved in law enforcement for 30 years here in Central Illinois, our departments actually did a ton of training. You know, send the officers to whatever training, whether it's firearms or, you know, driving or whatever it is, you know, domestic violence training and all that kind of stuff. Our officers are highly trained here.
Mhm.
And as far as, you know, normal, not following suit and, you know, being part of the group, but I guarantee if there's a situation, they'll call Bloomington SWAT guys, and Bloomington SWAT guys will respond in that armored vehicle.
Well, and I love what he says here in a local paper. Chris Coos said that it's possible the town could have an event and prove him wrong about this issue.
I mean, you got
but do we
campuses.
really want the event to happen and
We
then
don't want
not
the
be
event to happen, yeah.
prepared, and then you have the officer die? And I mean, it's just like, so we're waiting for tragedy to happen. Why wouldn't you take these?
You got to be
preventative measures?
proactive. You can't be reactive. A lot of police forces have become reactive, you know, whether it's manpower, staffing, whatever it is. They're a reactive police force where, you know, an incident happens and they respond to it instead of, you know, being proactive and taking care of the problem prior to. And we used to have a unit called the proactive unit. Originally it was a gang unit, and then it became the proactive unit. Now it's a special crimes unit. So it's just a name. They still do the same, the same things every day throughout there, but you got to be proactive.
Got to be proactive. And I also like this, Jamal Symington, the police chief here, saying that it could come in handy to rescue people in like heavy snows or floods.
Oh, sure, that thing can go through anything, I think.
Yeah, well, it's big. It's a bigger
truck, yeah.
vehicle. All right. So I do want to pick this up. We're going to talk a little bit more with David Quinn from Team Blue Line, wrap up the show. You guys are listening to the Morning Buzz with Kat Peterson. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Kat Peterson 929. We'll see you on the other side. David Quinn from Team Blue Line joining me in studio. If you guys want to see us live in studio, if you want to see David Quinn, he is here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. We're live streaming. And David Quinn from Team Blue Line. We were talking a little bit about Chris Coos and how he said, you know, if an event were to happen in normal, then he would, it might change his opinion on a SWAT vehicle. Now, I was concerned about the SWAT vehicle. But now, after talking with you, I understand that there are situations where, you know, and Jamal Symington, the police chief for Bloomington,
Mhm.
said that they didn't have a vehicle that was bulletproof. And going into these situations, you described something that actually happened in normal, where this vehicle could have really can prevent the loss of an officer.
Or
Uh,
civilians. I mean, they would protect the civilians as well if they needed to go into a situation and get somebody out. They would use that vehicle.
Yeah, well,
Potentially, they could use the vehicle.
the Bloomington police said that there were 39 times in the last 5 years where such a vehicle could have made SWAT deployments safer, not counting the times that would have helped the neighboring agencies like Normal, ISU Police, and the McLean County Sheriff's Department. So
Yeah.
Bloomington alone, that's 39 times where they have identified. So I don't know. I think that there was a lot of worry, but here's the thing: the local police having something like this, I think, would be better than, you know, waiting on the big guys, the state police, who are already pretty stretched thin. We've talked about the
Oh, yeah.
redistricting
Redistricting, yep.
and how they have to cover vast areas of the state because now they're in a troop system, which the districts are much bigger that they have to cover. So I think like our Illinois state troopers, they have to cover all the way up to Kankakee. That's like a couple hours away, which
Yeah, Troop 5 is pretty big. We're in Troop 5 now. So, and, you know, getting back to this armored vehicle thing, I mean, you got to be a proactive police force, like we were talking about earlier, not a reactive police force, and have the tools available to the officers. I mean, the training's there. I know all of our SWAT guys at Bloomington there, and Normal as well. I know some of those guys, and they're highly trained officers, and they're great officers.
Mhm.
But give them the tools to do their job.
And I think there's worry coming from all sides of the aisle, right, left, Republican, Democrat, because of what's going on at the state level when it comes to banning so-called assault weapons. I think that people are concerned that their Second Amendment is going away and officers get to keep that Second Amendment. So that's what was fought in the Illinois Supreme Court. And actually, they upheld that law. That's part of the Safety Act.
Right.
Where they upheld the assault weapons ban, the high capacity magazine. Sorry, I said safety. I got things on mind, but they actually upheld it. And there was an argument from Dan Calkins that said, whoa, 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 we need equal protection under the law. Why do police officers get this opportunity to have these high capacity weapons and I don't? That's where I think people are afraid. But the answer isn't taking the guns out of the police hands.
Or the good guy, or the regular civilians' hands, the ones that want to, you know, hang on to their Second Amendment. We need to get the guns out of the hands of the people that are actually doing the crimes.
Mm.
I mean, I've got guns. Mine haven't committed a crime ever.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been around guns since I was a young boy.
Mhm.
And I've never had an incident with a firearm.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for our show. How do we find out more about Team Blue Line and help you guys out?
Get on cities92.9.com. Go to the drop down link, back the blue, and you can hook up with Team Blue Line.
All right,
Appreciate
folks.
it.
You have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. I love you.